Hi everyone, my name is Alex and I'm making a vector graphics inspired twin stick shooter called Point Cloud. It's inspired by many different games I played growing up, including Asteroids, which I suck at, a random mobile game called Tilt to Live, and most importantly, Geometry Wars. Specifically, Geometry Wars Galaxies on the Wii, which made great use of the Wiimote to solve my biggest problem with other twin-stick shooters, aiming with a joystick. Late last year, I was playing it on the Wii and thought, why has no one made this but on PC, with a mouse? And bam, Point Cloud was born. Let's address the elephant in the room. What happened to Caper Arcadia? It's a good question with a long answer. Overall lack of direction, getting busy over the holidays, general distraction and procrastination, etc. But the short of it is this. I came to the conclusion that I don't yet have the skills to develop a game of that scope, and I wasn't able to pick out a smaller core idea to move forward with. Also, making a good platformer is actually really hard, and you have to contend with the fact that everyone and their mom has already made one. So not only is your game likely to be shit, it's also very unlikely to sell well, if at all. So with all of that in consideration, I cut my losses and put the project on the back burner. It's definitely a game I want to make in the future, or at least a similar type of game. But for now, I'm pretty happy with my decision because this project is already much further along.
So what on this godforsaken rock is Point Cloud then?
Here's the plan. Point Cloud will be a casual, high-score based arcade game. I want it to have a pick up and play feel where people feel comfortable playing just a few rounds at a time or throwing on a YouTube video and zoning out trying to beat a high score. It'll have many levels featuring different enemies, hazards, and power-ups, and because I'm obsessed with numbers and stats and such, it'll have medals, leaderboards, achievements, etc., and I think grinding for those alongside unlocking new ships and such will be the primary drivers of replayability. I also want Point Cloud to look aesthetically pleasing, as well as unique, and I'm working with my friend Willow, who's a super talented artist, to develop a style for the game that blends vector graphics, sci-fi glyphs, early digital typefaces, and retro-futuristic displays, and blends them into something that I think has the potential to really stand out. The plan is to use these sources as a starting point, but not to be beholden to them, or the technological restrictions that brought them about in the first place. Now, you might be looking at this gameplay and thinking, that's it? I don't know, man. This guy's last game looked way cooler. But fear not. Work is getting done. It's just mostly been on back-end stuff up to this point, as well as, figuring out what the game is actually gonna be. Something I really should have done last time around. So, what have I actually been up to? Good question. Since Point Cloud is gonna have big arenas and waves of enemies, the primary system I needed to cook up was one that somehow knows which enemies to put where and at what time. It's a simple problem in concept, but in actuality, it's pretty hard to make one that's actually, fun. I've never even tried making this type of game before, so I genuinely had no idea where to start. That's when I came upon this video, outlining a shop system in which each enemy is assigned a cost, and then at the beginning of each wave, the spawn system is given a certain amount of currency with which it can buy different enemies to spawn in the level. The problem that took me a long time to wrap my head around, and honestly I'm still kind of figuring it out as I go, is this little part down here. The implementation details of what exactly spawn in the level means. Where do they spawn? Is it just random or in set locations? Or maybe both? How many enemies should spawn at a time? How do you pace the level to increase in difficulty over time? How many different types of enemies should be in each level? How do you add variety to the spawn patterns? The list goes on, truly, and it's probably something that I'll be continuously thinking about and tweaking up until release. It's a lot to discuss, so I think I want to make a dedicated video exploring the topic further, as well as my current implementation. For now, let me tell you about 2 crazy tangents I went on prior to all the enemy spawning stuff. Now, as you may know, I use Unity to make games. And for as long as I've used the engine, there's been a bug causing builds of your game to sometimes just open on the wrong monitor if you have more than one. And the only way around this is to switch your game to windowed mode, drag it onto the correct monitor, and then switch back to full screen. And I'm sure you've noticed this on some Steam games before. And that of course means you need some sort of settings menu and a toggle for going between the different full screen modes. Point Cloud is designed with both mouse and keyboard and controller in mind, so I knew from the beginning that I'd want some sort of menu navigation system. And yeah, Unity already has a built-in UI navigation event system thing, but here's the thing. It's pretty convoluted to work with, and it's also way more complicated than I need for Point Cloud. So I made my own. I'm sure it's not optimal. For example, I just store each navigation neighbor in a struct and then assign them in the scene, which seems, I don't know, a little basic. But hey, it gets the job done, and I like working with it for the most part. I also made a little stack system for switching between UI screens, something I felt pretty clever for, but I'm pretty sure it's just like the way you do it, so. My other big tangent came when I wanted to implement tracking high scores for having my friends playtest. I initially started with a simple file manager class, utilizing Unity's built-in JSON utility helper to read and write to a JSON file. However, and here's where the tangent begins, I also realized that I could use this system for saving other things to files as well, such as user settings. And so my quest began for a somewhat abstracted save system, which to my surprise was actually pretty easy to adapt from my little high score saver. Then of course I ran into the issue of JSON utility not supporting enums, along with many other types, and I just said fuck it and bought EasySave 3 from the asset store because it was on sale. And it actually slotted right into my existing code, which, not gonna lie, had me feeling pretty good about my design. And that brings us to now. There's a few random small things I haven't mentioned yet, like this post-game stats tracker I whipped up on an airplane ride, switching to Freya switching to Freya's Shapes plugin, which was also on sale for the visuals, as well as some dabbling in Fmod for audio. And don't worry, all the sound effects right now are placeholder. Overall, I'm really enjoying working on this project. It's made me realize that a lot of what I'd considered failed projects in the past were actually still super valuable experience, both in terms of general knowledge gained, as well as the literal tools I'm making for myself to create games more efficiently. I now have a health system, a save system, state machines, object pools, UI navigation, and plenty more that I can keep reusing in future projects. It's a great feeling, to be honest, and it gives me a lot of confidence moving forward with this project. Speaking of which, here is my current release plan for Point Cloud. Phase 1 will be a limited playtest on Steam using Steam's built-in playtest feature. And shout out to Blargis for this idea. You guys should definitely go check out him and his game Blood Thief. Phase 2 will be a demo release on Steam and itch.io, and hopefully coincide with a Steam festival of some sort. And finally, Phase 3 will be a full release on Steam, maybe itch.io, I guess, and maybe other platforms. I have no idea, to be honest, but it's definitely coming out on Steam. But Alex, I hear you ask, that timeline is extremely nebulous and gives me no concrete idea as to when I'll actually be able to play Point Cloud. Well, my hypothetical viewer, you're in luck. All you have to do to get access to Point Cloud right now is to support the project by going to patreon.com/poke_bd. This will also give you access to any behind the scenes materials like concepts, sketches, ideas, etc. And your support would mean the world to us, truly. So, I hope you enjoyed this video and are looking forward to a little deep dive into the enemy spawn wave system next time. I hope you'll consider subscribing, leaving a like, and sharing the video with anyone you think may be into what I'm doing here. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.